When we hear the word pirate, an image from movies immediately pops into our heads. A tricorn hat, a wooden leg, a hook instead of a hand, a parrot on the shoulder, and a map with a cross marking the spot where a treasure chest is buried. This image is so ingrained in our culture that we perceive it as historical fact. But what were real pirates like? How did they live, what did they fight for, what did they do, and why do they remain a symbol of freedom and rebellion to this day? This is the BLESARD channel. And it was created so that you have something to watch before bed. And this is a story about real pirates. To understand this, we need to go back to the early 18th century, to the so-called Golden Age of piracy, which lasted only about 10 years, from 1716 to 1726. It was then that hundreds of former sailors, runaway slaves, and adventurers from all over the world raised black flags over the Caribbean Sea and challenged the greatest empires of the time. The beginning of the 18th century. The world enters an era of active colonization. The British, Spanish, French, and Dutch established colonies around the world. The main sea routes passed through the Caribbean Sea. This is where ships loaded with gold, silver, spices, and slaves converge. Thousands of sailors worked on these ships, poor people forced to serve for pennies in unbearable conditions. They died of disease, were beaten by officers, and often ended up with nothing after long years of service. When the wars ended, a huge number of these sailors found themselves on the streets, without money, without work, and without a future. Many of them decided to take their fate into their own hands. They boarded ships, raised black flags, and became pirates. The first pirate bases appeared in remote bays and on uninhabited islands. The most famous of these was Nassau in the Bahamas. This small port became a real pirate republic. The laws of the empires did not apply here, there were no taxes and no social hierarchy. Anyone who came to Nassau could become part of the brotherhood. It didn't matter who you were before, a slave, a sailor, or a criminal. The main thing was whether you were willing to risk your life for freedom and loot. Pirate crews lived by their own laws. Most ships were democratic. The captain was elected by vote and could be removed if the crew was dissatisfied with his decisions. All important issues, from attacking a ship to distributing the loot, were decided collectively. Every member of the crew had a vote and all votes were equal. The spoils were divided fairly. An ordinary sailor received 1 share, a navigator received 1.5, and the captain received a maximum of 2. This was very different from the conditions on military and merchant ships, where captains and officers took almost everything for themselves, leaving ordinary sailors with pennies. One of the peculiarities of pirate communities was their remarkable equality for that time. Between 30 and 60% of pirate crews were black, former slaves whom the pirates freed when they captured slave ships. Conditions on such ships were appalling. People died every day from disease and exhaustion. It is therefore not surprising that freed Africans willingly joined the pirates, where they were accepted as equals. Pirates were called villains of all nations. Among them were English, French, Spanish, Dutch, Africans, and even people from Asia. Origin, skin color, or religion did not matter here. Only loyalty to the crew was important. Pirate ships were distinguished not only by racial and social equality, but also by sexual freedom. Among pirates, there were many men who were in romantic or intimate relationships with each other. On merchant and military ships, this was strictly forbidden and punishable by death, but on pirate ships, no one interfered in the personal lives of the crew members. The main rule was simple: do what you want as long as it doesn't interfere with the business. On board, you could find everything from strong male friendships to open relationships. Pirates valued loyalty and brotherhood in battle far more than social conventions. Although women were rarely found on pirate ships, they still played an important role. Sometimes a pirate would take his wife with him, but more often than not, these were casual relationships in port. However, history knows of several exceptional women who not only participated in pirate life, they became legends. The most famous of these are Bonnie and Mary Red. Both were forced to dress in men's clothing to get on board a ship, and ran away from home when she fell in love with a pirate, and Mary ended up in a pirate crew after her ship was captured. They quickly earned the respect of the crew and a reputation as fearless fighters. And Mary fought alongside the men, and even when their ship was captured in 1720, they defended it to the last. After their capture, both were sentenced to hang, but they managed to delay their execution by announcing that they were pregnant. Mary died in prison and Bonnie disappeared from the chronicles. Her further fate remains a mystery. The most famous pirate of the Golden Age was Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. His image largely became the prototype for Captain Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. Blackbeard was huge, almost 2 meters tall, and possessed a terrifying charisma. Before attacking, he would light the wicks woven into his beard so that smoke billowed from it. His appearance on the enemy's deck made a powerful psychological impression. "I am your nightmare. Surrender or die." Although Blackbeard was not the most successful pirate, his name struck terror into the hearts of captains across the Atlantic Ocean. He understood the power of fear and used it as a weapon. The pirate flag with a skull and crossbones, the Jolly Roger, appeared during the Golden Age. Its origin is linked to maritime journals. The skull and crossbones was a symbol of death, which captains used to mark the deaths of crew members. Transferring to a pirate ship was considered a sign of death, and the flag symbolized this literally. But the Jolly Roger was not the only one. Each captain created his own version. Some flags depicted skeletons, others sabers, hearts, and even hourglasses. The hourglass reminded victims that their time was running out. This symbol also reflected the pirates' own attitude toward life. They knew that their journey would be short. Being a pirate meant living in constant danger. The authorities actively hunted them down. The British Navy combed the Caribbean Sea, and royal governors offered huge rewards for the heads of captains. In addition, pirates faced disease, injury, and death in battle. Many lost eyes, limbs, or became crippled after battles. A wooden leg, a hook, and an eye patch became symbols not of romance, but of the reality of naval warfare. There is a theory that eye patches were often used not because of injury, but as a practical tool. They helped the eye adapt more quickly to darkness when descending into the hold. However, more often than not, they were the result of combat injuries. During naval battles, the main danger was not cannonballs but shrapnel. The explosion of a cannonball turned the wooden walls of the ship into deadly spears. Pirates died or were left disabled but continued to live this life, because they were willing to do anything for freedom. By the mid-1720s, the era of piracy was coming to an end. The British Crown and other powers could no longer tolerate the threat to their colonial routes. Warships began hunting pirates across the Atlantic Ocean. By 1726, most of the famous captains had been killed, captured, or executed. The rest went into hiding or disappeared into the crowd. Black flags gradually disappeared from the horizon. But it was at this moment that the legend was born. In 1724, a book entitled A General History of the Pirates was published in London. Its author, hiding under the pseudonym Captain Charles Johnson, collected dozens of stories about the most famous sea robbers of the time. This book caused a real sensation. It romanticized pirates, turning them from criminals into heroes, free, brave, and independent. This is where many of the cliches that we now accept as historical facts came from: skulls and crossbones, buried treasure, drunken feasts, and parrots on shoulders. One of the most enduring myths is associated with buried treasure. But historians have found no reliable evidence that pirates actually hid their loot in the ground. In fact, there was no point in doing so. Pirates spent everything they captured on shore, on rum, women, gambling, and a life of pleasure. They did not plan for old age, build houses, or accumulate wealth. Their philosophy was simple: live today because tomorrow you may be dead. In the eyes of the authorities, pirates were criminals, but to ordinary people they were heroes. They challenged empires, lived by their own rules, and refused to obey an unjust system. The poor admired them because they themselves dreamed of the freedom that pirates had managed to obtain. Even their executions turned into acts of resistance. Many went to the gallows with a smile on their faces, asking for no mercy. Their last words sounded like a challenge to the whole world: better to die free than live as a slave. 300 years have passed, but the pirate spirit lives on. It is present in books, movies, games, and even street art. The pirate flag has become a symbol not only of anarchy and crime, but also of freedom, rebellion, and resistance to the system. Today, the image of a pirate is not so much about robbery as it is about the courage to go against the rules. It is about those who do not accept imposed boundaries and seek their own path. The real pirates of the Caribbean were not heroes. They killed, plundered, and broke the law. But they were also human beings, with their own fears, dreams, and hopes. Their lives were short but bright. Their struggle was desperate but sincere. They showed that freedom always comes at a price. But it is this price that makes it truly valuable. And maybe a pirate is not a criminal. Maybe a pirate is a part of each of us. The part that is not afraid to challenge the world and live by its own rules. The real pirates of the Caribbean are not just a thing of the past. They are an idea that lives on. And as long as people dream of freedom, the pirate flag will never be lowered for good.